Hello, today I'm going to be reviewing Legion of the Damned by Rob Sanders. This book has quite a misleading title, and I noticed some people commenting on the Black Library website about how it's got no Legion of the Damned are in this book. Give it 1 out of 5 rating, and I'm not going to say the words I'd use to describe that, but you can't really just slate a book just because it doesn't contain much of a very mysterious chapter. Sure, it is a little misleading, but Games Workshop were always going to keep the Legion of the Damned a bit of a secret. They've done it for ages now, so I think those people have been a bit silly myself. But yeah, another thing that's a bit misleading is that the Blood God doesn't really demand annihilation until towards the end of the book. So if you're looking for loads of World Eaters fighting Legion of the Damned, it's not gonna be in this book, but this is a book that really racked up the tension extremely well for most of the book. And you did kind of feel like the World Eaters were coming for you near the end of it. And yeah, luckily I've taken enough skulls for Khorne to leave me alone, and I kind of survived it. But yeah, it was a really good book, which is all I'll say on that so far. The good things about the book. So there was a big unexpected twist. I won't say where it was, but I thought it was really good because I didn't expect it. And twists are usually good because they sort of change the whole setting and what events may come next. It makes the reader think. So if they catch you off guard, they're usually good at twists. So the main character is Kirsch, and he's a Space Marine of the Excoriators chapter, which is quite a good word. But he's quite a sour grape. Is there a saying? The sour grape of the bunch? Because that's Kirsch. He doesn't really get along with everyone else, and he's the main character, which makes for quite an interesting set of character interactions. And Kirsch, I love his development because, sure, he's a heroic fighter, which you expect, but well, for a Space Marine who's also the main character, it's kind of a prerequisite, isn't it? I'd say, especially in a Space Marine battles novel. But he has these illusions throughout the book, and his combination of successes and failures and his alienation from his brothers sort of sets him up to be very, wow, he's multifaceted. I like saying that. He's not just one personality. He has very different dimensions to his personality, which makes him more interesting. Particularly, I want to think about the alienation from his brothers. So he comes into the chapter, and the rest of his brothers don't really like him, which is sort of sets up the book really well, because how would he cope? How would a Space Marine cope with that? I mean, sure, they're really loyal and honourable, but if they don't like someone, how do they act? And I guess this was quite an interesting insight into that. I also liked the development of this, what happened later on, how this sort of evolved throughout the book. Unfortunately, I have to be quite sort of brief on stuff like this so I don't give too much away. There were several sections throughout the book which switched to Kirsch's first-person view, which it was hit and miss. Sometimes it was really good to see his sort of perspective on things from his own eyes, but sometimes there was like a huge section written in italics, and I was a bit sort of waiting for it to go back to a normal third-person view. But it did add a bit of variation, and it really worked in some areas, and it allowed you to empathise with his predicaments better. So I think it's a pro overall. The set pieces were often great. I absolutely loved the meeting with the ecclesiarchs. That was really memorable, and yeah, it's a good bit to read. When you get to that bit, hopefully I haven't bigged it up too much, but I thought it was great. The action was nice. Not the best ever, but certainly solid enough. So I think that's all there is to say on the action, really. Now the negatives. A large sort of event through the early part of the book is the Feast of Blades, which is where loads of warriors who, well, they're all successor chapters to the Imperial Fists or the Imperial Fists themselves. They each send a warrior to fight each other and compete in a tournament. I thought it was good in places, but it did drag on a little bit. I mean, I think it was put in to set the scene a little bit and sort of introduce you to the characters, which is theoretically not a bad way to start off the book. But I felt it dragged a little, and it could have done with being a bit shorter, because I think a considerable chunk of the book was written concerning this. The main storyline was pretty predictable. You kind of worked it out even when I just read the blurb. I kind of sort of could see where the storyline was going, and it sort of reduces the tension a bit and lessens the effect of the tension that's building up to the climax near the end of the book. So, it's quite a considerable negative, really. It was actually the smaller events and set pieces that were really good, like the meeting the ecclesiarchs. Those bits were really memorable and really great. But the main storyline sort of lacking in comparison, I suppose. And I think that's it, really. So my verdict. It was an interesting one to review because I wasn't actually expecting that much, and I was pleasantly surprised, really. As long as you can cope with the rare inclusions of the Legion of the Damned, I still find that strange. They're meant to be a very secretive chapter, and they were very secretive in this book, and people were kind of expecting them to just be revealed completely. I don't know. But, the book has a brilliant main character. I love Kerr, she was great. If I was going to read it again, it would simply be because of him. The action was decent, and the sort of, short-term plot developments were really good. Some of the long-term stuff was good, but the main storyline was a bit lacking, by contrast. So, it's sort of a mixed bag, but more positives than negatives, really. Similarly, the action was hit and miss, but more positives than negatives. It was a good book that will probably be underrated by most. Kersh is a fantastic character, and I think he'll always stay with me because he was just brilliant. He was set up well, and he evolved through the book, and that makes a perfect character. So I think this is actually my favourite Space Marine Battles book so far. It's not perfect, but it was certainly a good one. So try it out, and thanks for watching.